item is under C2 resolutions. This specific resolution is land acknowledgement, specifically acknowledging East Providence as part of Soames, the ancestral home of the Pokanoket tribe. This is sponsored by Council Vice President Rodericks and myself. I think I could speak to this, but I think we have a number of people here that are better qualified and can do a better job of speaking to it than I can or Councilman Rodericks can. So at the pleasure of the council, Mr. President, I'd like to give them an opportunity to do so.
Please do.
Okay.
Anyone here by name you can call out?
Yes, we do. So we have a number of folks, and they're all signed up under public comment. So I don't know, Dr. Weed, would you care to begin?
Sure.
All right.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm Dr. David Weed. I'm a resident of Warren, Rhode Island, the first town in all of New England that we know of that passed a similar resolution to recognize the Pokanoket tribe as the original residents of our town. If you drive through Warren sometime, look up at Town Hall and you will see a plaque up there that has been there for the existence of the building for 100 years, saying Soames 1621. Soames is the name of the territory that the Massasoit, Usamequin, you recall from what little you learned or were taught in school that it was Osamequin who met the Pilgrims in 1621 and who signed a treaty. That treaty guaranteed the survival of both the English and of the tribe, who had been decimated by a great plague that had killed over 90% of them along the coast in 1616, 1619. That treaty protected both the tribe and the English. It led to the English survival to the extent that they expanded in their territory, and eventually we ended up with a war in 1675, King Philip War. After that war concluded, most of the people who had been living here for 10,000 years or more were forced to leave the area. They have come back. They have continued to live here, often disguised, often having to merge in with other tribes and not having the opportunity to reveal their identity and to reclaim their history. We're in the process, through a project called the Soames Heritage Area, of recovering that history and helping people throughout not only our area but across the country to understand what really happened in 1621 and in the 100 years that followed. Getting land recognition is one of the steps in the process of helping people to recognize their own history. And we're very proud in Warren to be the first to do that. The town of Barrington followed that 6 months later in December. And tonight, thanks to Councilman Cahoon and Councilman Rodericks, we have the opportunity to add a third East Bay community to recognize the original inhabitants of this area. So I hope you will take this into consideration and pass this unanimously, as have the other two towns, so that we can really make a statement to people who live here and people across the country and around the world as to what happened here. Do you have any questions that I can answer? Okay.
I don't have a question, but just a quick acknowledgement that the Native Americans, the Pokanoket tribe, is here. Every year we acknowledge that tribe here for Native American Day. And for those of you who don't understand the tribe, what they've done, where they've been, and how they got to where they are, it's a very interesting learning process to listen to the history behind the Pokanoket tribe. And it's really interesting, actually. So I recommend next time when they have Native American Day, embrace it and come in, and you can learn a lot more about the culture in itself.
Yes, and all of those are recorded on the Soames Heritage Area website. So you don't have to wait till next fall. You can hear them anytime. So hopefully, there are other members here who are going to respond, so
Okay.
I
Thank you,
yield
sir.
to that. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I think probably next, I've worked primarily with Sachem Tracy Dancing Star Brown. I believe she's here. I'd like to call her forward to say a few words.
Akwini, hello. I am Hope Kumakwaka translated Dancing Star. I'm station of the Pokanoket tribe of the Pokanoket Nation, and I commend you for bringing this to the table this evening, and I am here to answer any questions. Land acknowledgement, I think that is so important because SOAMs, which East Providence is a part of, is such an amazing, important part of the history of this country. And the people who live in East Providence, they need to know that, they need to be educated on it, they need to embrace it. And in doing that, it builds pride, it builds community, it's an opportunity for education, and when you recognize the first peoples of the land, then it opens the door for the recognition of others who have come afterwards. So, it's very important, and our people, we embrace stewardship, and again, when people take pride in where they live, they take care of where they live. So, I just think it's very important. It's a very important part of history. It's very important for all of us to, have this foundation of acknowledging the land on which we all share together. So if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to.
I would just like to thank you for, your guidance and your education on this journey as we started talking, I think, back in November about this and, trying to come up with a resolution and pick a right date. So thank you very much for your time and effort there.
You're welcome. And I also have the Sagamore of the nation is here, and our tribal historian, and if you would like for them to, come up for any comments, they are here.
I noticed Mr. Edmonds just walked in with his brother as well.
And
so I'm
Station
sure he
Harry
has a lot
Bucket
to say.
Edmonds is here. And Elder Lee Bravehawk Edmonds as well. So we do have other tribal members here.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Please, as they'd like to come up.
It's about me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope. Can I get a hope from you folks?
I'll
Hope, that's a greeting. That's a native greeting. First of all, I want to thank the council for this Land Acknowledgement Act. To accept the fact that the Pokanokets are still here. We're a people that's been here for thousands of years. But what I'd like to do is offer a sacred tobacco prayer in the language of my people. The language that we were deprived from speaking so many years ago, 1675, 1676. That was during the King Philip's War. My ancestors fought that war to save their way of life, preserve their culture. So the language was taken from them. They were deprived from speaking it. They had to assimilate in order to survive and adapt the ways of the settlers. But like I say, we're still here. Now this sacred tobacco prayer is all about honor and respect, which is the native way. And the honor and respect is somewhat lost in today's world, but we have to get it back. We've lost respecting one another and honoring one another. So with this Land Acknowledgement Act, it's a sign of respect and honor, and I want to thank the council once again for doing that. That's a beginning. I will also offer this sacred tobacco prayer in the English language, so you don't think I'm talking gibberish. If I could get everyone to stand, remove your hat. We use sacred tobacco in many of our ceremonies. Of course, we don't condone the use of tobacco products other than for sacred ceremonial purposes. I will begin. Katatuit numagni owitamog. Aki numagni owitamog. Okamus. Nupashad numagni owitamog. Wuchichi kiriasan nupawas. Numagni owitamog. Tubatni anawain. Numagni owitamog ot yu uk nashikaki. Wampanayu. Sowanayu. Patanayu. Nanamayu. Tabatni anawain nuwachi wami. Ni tampog. Neg pamaninachig. Neg pamambachig. Papanashingwag. Medakwash ka maski tosh. Nemosag. Quitianamu kui chininamacheg. Atuk. Mask. Makwashin tunapasag. Sasaso. Katatuit numagni owitamog. Oh. Great Spirit, I offer this tobacco. Mother Earth, I offer this tobacco. Grandmother Moon, I offer this tobacco. Grandfather Sun, I offer this tobacco. I thank you. I offer this tobacco to the four directions, to the east, to the south, to the west, to the north. I thank you for all my relations, the winged nation, the creeping, crawling nation, the four-legged nation, the green and growing nation, and all things living in the water. Honoring the clans, the deer, the bear, the wolf, the turtle, the snipe, the rabbit. Great Spirit, I offer this tobacco. Aho. I thank this council, Katabatash. Aho.
Thank you.
That's it. Ayutai.
Mr. Edmonds, could you stay here for a moment? Mr. President, if I may I call you the Hawk?
You know how I got that name, don't you?
I do.
Danny Silbron gave me that name for playing East Providence High School. You're right.
For those who don't know, Mr. Edmonds, AKA the Hawk, not only was one of the first peoples of the East Bay, not you personally, but you know your history. He was an all-star, all-state graduate of East Providence High School, 1956. I wrote that.
Exactly. Wow. Beautiful.
And it was said by the University of Rhode Island at that time that you were the shining star in all of Rhode Island in interscholastic sports, one of the best basketball players to ever come out of EP and the state of Rhode Island. And as we all get older, people tend to forget, but the Hawk's name is around, also a member of the East Providence High School Hall of Fame. So thank you for keeping your towny roots as well as the other roots that you bring here tonight. And I was pleased and thank Mr. Councilman Cahoon. We met a few months ago to talk about this, and hopefully tonight it will come to fruition.
Thank you, Bobby Rogers, I appreciate that.
Who?
Quanunin in the language is hawk. Quanunin, hawk. One other thing I want to leave you with. I come off the line of Anawan. He was the war chief to the Massasoit, Usamiquin, or Yellow Feather. He was the one that kept peace with the settlers for over 55 years until he died, and then of course the King Philip's War broke out, if you know about your colonial history. But when Anawan was fighting the settlers to save the land and their way of life, he was heard to cry out in battle, Ayutash! Ayutash! Stand firm and fight! Ayutash! So I leave that with you folks today. Don't ever give up. Ayutash!
Ayutash!
Aho!
Thank you.
That's good message.
Thank you.
Councilman Bowman?
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? If not, we can proceed with the resolution.
Please do.
All right. One second.
Hold on, I think we have,
Oh,
one more.
actually, that'll give me time to pull it up, too.
How you doing?
Good evening.
Good
Thank
evening.
you, sir.
I'm Dr. William Guy. I am also the Sagamore Pole Walpy Neoborg of the Pokanoka tribe of the Pokanoka Nation. Harry is one of my sub-chiefs, and so is Dancing Star. I am the head chief of all the nation. Harry's from Anawan's line. I'm from King Philip's line. My great-grandfather, Massasoit Osamiquin, Massasoit is the title, which means great leader. He was a great leader of one of the largest Indian nations in colonial America. At that time, there were 60 tribes, bands, and clans in that nation. And this whole area, southeastern Mass, and of course, East Providence was part of Seacock at that time, was known as Pokanoka country. Any map prior to the King Philip War, 1675, 1676, says right on it, Pokanoka country, King Philip country, including the John Sellers map, who was the map maker to the King of England. I'm 10th generation great-grandson of the Massasoit Osamiquin, who welcomed the Pilgrims to this country and signed the first peace treaty with the Europeans, which allowed everyone to come here. I'm 9th generation great-grandson of King Philip. You know him historically as King Philip. His name was Metacomet, or Po Metacom, or Po Metacomet. And I'm also 6th generation great-grandson of Simeon Simons, who was George Washington's hand-picked bodyguard. He's the only man that George Washington trusted to watch over him when he slept. And he's also in the Griswold Town Hall, is a portrait of him and George Washington. He's also on the bicentennial coin of the town of Griswold, Connecticut, 200-year celebration of this country as a country, 1676 to, what was it, 1776 to 1976. And the reason why I mentioned Simeon Simon, that's King Philip's great-grandson. That Indian that you see downtown Providence, the Indian princess, she was the last chief before me of our tribe. That's Princess Red Wing. She was the first Indian to address the United Nations in 1946. And she is also in the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame. That's my mother's first cousin. That's my first cousin once removed. The history, a lot of people don't know who Pokanoka is because they, during the King Philip War, 1675, 1676, they outlawed the word Pokanoka, and if you were the colonial government trying to expunge it from the dictionary, if you said that you were Pokanoka, they'd kill you on sight if you were male 14 years of age, older, and at that time they started calling us Wampanoag. But there was no Wampanoag the first 50 years of encounters with the European. They never even heard of the word. If you read the Massachusetts Archaeological Society, according to them, they never heard of the word. It was never recorded anywhere in history until during the King Philip War. So basically, Hawk, that's my first cousin on my father's side. On my mother's side, I come down from King Philip. On my father's side, I come down from Anawan. Anawan, I'm a 10th generation great-grandson of Anawan, who was the head Piney warrior for the Massasoit Osamiquin, and then for his son, King Philip. So it was actually King Philip's uncle Anawan. So that's my line on both sides of Poconoke. And if I'm honored to be here tonight, and glad to that you have received us and have taken into consideration this land acknowledgement. Just want you to know that the Poconokets lived in Solmes, and Solmes at the time of the Massasoit didn't only take in Barrington, Warren, and Bristol, which happened in 1748, 1747, 1748, somewhere in there, but it was also Swansea, Rehoboth, Seacon. This was all Bristol County, Massachusetts at one time. Today it's Bristol County, Rhode Island, except for this here is Providence County, East Providence. So the land boundaries have changed through the years, and a lot of people aren't aware of it. But this is where the actual history of this country started, right here in this area. It was the most densely populated area at that time. So if there's any question that I need to answer, I'll be glad to answer them for you. But I want to thank you for having us here this evening and allowing us the opportunity to address the town council. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm aware of a little history of King Philip. He's on our Bristol Town Seal, and actually on our police patches also. There's talk about the King Philip chair in Bristol, and a lot of those streets are actually named after a bunch of tribes, Solmes, Metacomet, and quite a few streets. So there's a lot of history also in Bristol.
Councilman Cohen?
So if no one else wants to speak, we'll go ahead and proceed with the resolution.
Councilman Cohen, would you like to read off that resolution?
I
for us,
would,
please?
and I actually don't have, I didn't grab the hard
Yeah.
copy. Let me grab this. Thank you. All right. So the resolution reads as follows. State of Rhode Island, City of East Providence. A resolution acknowledging East Providence as a part of Solmes, the ancestral home of the Poconoket tribe. Whereas East Providence is one of several Rhode Island cities and towns within the Solmes heritage area. And whereas Solmes is the ancestral home of the Poconoket tribe, where they lived and thrived for the nearly 12,000 years between the last glacial retreat and the establishment of European colonies in New England. And whereas Solmes is historically significant as a cultural nexus between indigenous and European peoples, and whereas the towns of Barrington and Warren have officially acknowledged these facts, that their boundaries lie within the Solmes heritage area, and whereas the City of East Providence City Council pays honor to and has deep respect for the ancestries and cultural contributions of all its people. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of East Providence makes the following land acknowledgement to be displayed at the beginning of all future council meetings. Welcome to Solmes, the ancestral home of the Poconoket people for 10,000 years prior to settler colonization. We pay tribute to the tribal elders and people of this community who served and continue to serve as stewards of the land and waterways of Rhode Island and Massachusetts. We recognize the unique and enduring relationship that exists between indigenous people and their traditional territories. We acknowledge that our community was a part of the larger ancestral homeland of the Poconoket Nation. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder for our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Poconoket people for the benefit of the lands and water of Solmes. This resolution shall take effect upon passage. And that's it. And so said, move to approve the resolution as read.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the motion as read. Would anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a second on the floor as well. Deputy Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Councilman President Rodrick?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye. Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Councilman Cohen.
Thanks for the opportunity to move that up. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you, everybody.